Jerry Jones, he's talking about the lack of a extension done for Dak Prescott, for CeeDee Lamb, for Micah Parsons as the Dallas Cowboys get ready for the draft and get ready for this upcoming season. And so Jerry Jones spoke with the media yesterday just about, how he feels about sort of the lack of activity as the Cowboys are trying to look forward to next year with no long-term solution for either of those guys set in place yet.
You may be working on it and not moving anything but your eyebrows. Who in the world would think that we're not working on it? I work on it. It pops open at 2 a.m. sometimes. What your actually question is why don't you have something done and negotiated and put in the drawer? Well, we'd like to see some more leaves fall. We'd like to see some more action.
About those numbers going up as a result of other teams paying some of these players at their positions.
I worry about, if you're asking me, do I worry about things going up? Not worry, but I probably have as good a feel as anybody living on this earth what the cap is going to be 3 years from now, and 4 years from now, 5 years from now. I really do. We've got exceptional insight into where the cap is going to be, more so than a lot of people.
Yeah, so once you guys relax, all right, stop pressuring Dallas to get a deal done for these guys. They know what they're doing, all right?
Yeah, well, but
it's not like Jerry Jones.
It's like I know the cap, but I need to see more action. Like, which one is it?
I mean, it's not like they haven't, waited this out before and it's gone well for them, even though they lost in the negotiation with Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott. Listen, they got this whole thing figured out.
He's a betting man. He's going to bet another time on whether or not Dak can have Dak was having a career year until he got injured, and they still paid him, right? They owned up to it. They didn't have to, but they did. So they find themselves in the spot, and I think Dak's betting on himself. They're probably betting on themselves. There's not really much they can do because of the stipulations of the contract. And I wonder if there's a part of them that's not betting that they're going to fail because they don't want Dak to fail, but they're betting that he's not going to be able to justify the contract that he received the first time around.
Even though he's gotten better.
He's a dead man walking.
Dak Prescott is?
Dead man walking.
I think he's good. Because if he just plays the way that he's played there for majority of his career, he's going to get paid by somebody. If it's not Dallas, it's going to be somebody.
Well, yeah. Well, if you're saying he's good that way, but he's a dead man walking in Dallas. I'm curious as to what his accomplishment level needs to be in order for him to maintain. I think that's more the intriguing question. What keeps him a Dallas Cowboy versus what ends up leading to him departing? To me, I wonder, is it Super Bowl or bust? Like when he says, I need to see action, what does that look like? CeeDee Lamb's action is legit. Micah Parsons' action is legit. You got to pay them. You're not letting either one of those guys go. Out of the three, if you're saying who's the one you got to let go if you're not happy with the results of the season, it's got to be Dak Prescott.
I would say let's look at, if you rank them, each at their position. Micah Parsons would be up there top of the league, right?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe, I don't know, top 3. Like, where would you put him as I don't know if you would put him as an edge rusher. I think that's, off the ball linebacker, however you describe him. You'd put him at the top. CeeDee Lamb, probably put him at the top. Where would you put Dak Prescott?
Not at the top. That's for certain.
But when? I mean, after, you know what I'm saying? After the Patrick Mahomes, the Lamars, the Josh Allen, the healthy Joe Burrow.
Right. I mean, you just named
tier
four right there. He's a tier 2. Yeah, he's a tier
but you're
2.
saying top 10?
Yeah, I'll put him in top 10.
Bottom.
I'll put him in top 10.
Like 8, and he was like 8 to 10.
Yeah, I'll put him in the top. I think you're hating on him if you don't put him in the top 10.
I'm only asking because if you're looking at like how you'd go about looking at market value.
Yeah. And
they'll be saying, well, look how his contract or what you're saying or what you're trying to get from us would compare to the rest of the league. But if he's trying to reset the quarterback market, which anytime you hit free agency, you have the opportunity to do that, it might be hard for him to justify it, at least based on production. Now, he is coming off his best year this past year. If he replicates that again, It'd be hard not to pay him if you're the Cowboys. But to Jonas's point, like someone would pay him. I mean, the Atlanta Falcons obviously paid Kirk Cousins. He makes it to free agency. They're able to pay him $100 million.
He's on that, and he's on that tear. He's that tear type of quarterback.
I also wonder this: say they go to next year and it looks like this year, they end up losing early in the playoffs, but Dak has a great year, and you look at it and you go, well, the defense had a meltdown, whatever. And say Dallas decides, all right, we're gonna do this whole thing over again. All right, well, if you let Dak walk away, you're picking in the mid to high 20s in the draft, and I just don't know what better option you have other than Dak Prescott, which is why it's a little surprising that they're just basically just going to roll the dice and see what do we got this year, because it feels
Do you feel like they're settling then?
Do you think they're gambling on the fact that Trey Lance can be a guy if they don't have a draft? No. Damn.
I don't think so.
Well, I don't know.
I just don't know what
I don't know what their angle is, but I just say this. You know what your ceiling is with Dak Prescott, depending on what type of year he has this year. And why would you – to me, I said, here's the only justification of keeping Dak Prescott. Business is still good. Your bottom line is still increasing as a franchise. He doesn't do anything to your franchise to lose any revenue, to lose any generation of sales, anything like that. He's not bad for business. He's just not good enough for you guys to win the Super Bowl for business. And now that becomes the question, do you lose a player that the community seems to embrace, the fan base seems to be good with? Do you lose that in a risk or in a taking a chance for another guy, whether it's in the draft or through free agency or trade, whatever it may be, to try to take your team to the next level? Do you lose that? See, to me, I feel like they're not going to justify – I don't feel like they're going to justify in their minds paying him an extension if they don't have the type of year that they want. So
it's gotta
I think
be
that's
Super
what's
Bowl.
going to outweigh. I think that's what's going to outweigh everything.
To Jonas's point, though, I think they find themselves in the purgatory. You know, you're not low enough to draft one of the top quarterbacks. Maybe you could say we could trade our whole draft to get up there. But next year's class, and I know we're talking in a small window here, but it's not viewed as highly as this class. So we don't know how that's going to work once we get there. But if you are in that position where it's too hard to trade down to get the guy that you want, and you're somewhere in the middle of the road, you're probably not going to find it in free agency either. It's like you almost would rather have a boom or bust year, which is tough to root for. But that's the reality of professional sports right now. Like if you look at franchises and how they look to reset, they have to tank. That's the pink elephant in the room. I know we don't want to admit that, but when you look at the years where teams have been able to quickly flip their roster, quickly change the momentum of their franchise, they've got to take a sharp dip before they're able to come back up again.
Is there a player worth doing that for this year? Who do you tank for in this upcoming year? Not this draft, but the next year. Who do you tank for?
I mean, the top quarterbacks are most likely. I mean, Shador's going to be up there for it. I mean, we know that at this point. I mean, he's going to be one of the top quarterbacks, but after that, I would say
do you tank for Shador Sanders?
I mean, I don't know that he's viewed as a generational prospect right now. Carson Beck's going to be another one out of Georgia that I think will be right up there too. I wouldn't be shocked if he didn't edge him out as the top prospect at the quarterback spot. But like those are at least two names.
Ewers,
but I mean, there's already.
Do you tank for yours?
There's already conversation about Arch Manning.
Is he getting
how he
arched?
looked in the spring game. So, but that's what I'm saying. Like when Trevor Lawrence got to Clemson, you saw him start as a freshman. You go, okay, that guy's going to be a first round. Like I'll say this now. There's guys right now playing in college football that I've seen that I'm like, okay, like that guy, he's eventually going to be, something. Like I did the Ohio State spring game. All right? Called it, watched it, prepped, watched some of the players. This is not going to make a lot of Ohio State fans feel great about it, but I think the two most talented guys they've got at quarterback on the roster are the two freshmen. I think it's Julian Sain and Aaron Nolan. That's what I think. And I don't know how that'll play out this year, but just watch them throw, watch them maneuver within the offense and all that, looking at all of them and at different points in their career. Devin Brown's been there. Will Howard just got there but has played the most football. I'm like, if it was me, I'd just go with the young guys because I see more upside there. I see where both Aaron Nolan and Julian Sain can where they can go and be, especially with more reps, more time. So I don't want to be too outspoken about this, but like that's where you get those generations. Like when you first saw Andrew Luck, you're like generational prospect. Came in as a freshman, you saw that, you're like, boom. People already thought that about him. You're not hearing that about like this particular class. Like when Caleb Williams first started playing for Oklahoma, he lit the world on fire. He upseated Spencer Rattler, who was one of the top prospects in his high school draft class, who is still a decent prospect in this class. Could go second, third round. We don't know where Rattler will go. That young man can sling it. Go back to the Senior Bowl. Look who was throwing it the best of anyone down there. Yeah, he'll spin it. So, like when you talk about like Caleb Williams and how he looks, when he first hit the scene at Oklahoma, he was balling. When he got to USC, wins the Heisman his first year there. Like that's a guy you look at and say, okay, this kid's special. We're just not seeing that. Excuse me, right now. At the college football level, looking at like next year's class the same way we're looking at this class, where you could have 5, maybe 6 guys go first round. Like that's not what next year's projecting so far.
Yeah, so the Cowboys might be in a tough spot.